If you are feeling fear or stress when you're in a trade, then you can easily find yourself cutting your positions way too early in a loss or even way too early in the green, not allowing your positions to fully develop. That's why in today's video, I'm going to show you the top 3 things that you need to do while you're in a trade to stop these mistakes from happening. Subscribe. So a lot of you guys have this type of things happening, right? You need to keep yourself mentally in check. You either cut your positions off too early because of a red candle, you cut your positions off early because of a green candle and you start to feel that greed come in. So you're like, I'm just going to cut this off. Or you cut yourself off early because of fear. Fear of literally anything. It could be a mental fear. It could be a fear of, you're not making enough money in your job. It could be a fear of anything, right? Now, this is something that we need to talk about, okay? Because if you're not able to do this, if you're not able to keep yourself mentally in check and trust in your setup, you are going to, in theory, never be able to hold yourself accountable in the long run to be green and to be successful, all right? So we're going to go over that today. Today we had a position on Tesla that went all the way down to 276.14. My stop loss was below 276 here. I had my stop loss right here at 275.79. We had a position go all the way down here. We saw a gigantic wick here. And I'm going to color this black so you guys can actually see it. We had a gigantic wick here that went all the way through all of this candle, right? And we had a tiny little body here that was red. And I still was holding this position, telling everybody, yo, I'm going to stay in this no matter what because I have my stop loss here at this point, right? Remember what we talked about before. A stop loss goes in a point of invalidation. Is a point of invalidation. And if you want your stop loss at a point of invalidation, then you have to realize one thing. If your stop loss has not hit, then what? Position is valid. Right. If your stop loss hasn't hit, then your position is still valid. So why would I spend my time in a position to cut it off at a point where my position is still valid? Right? It doesn't make any sense for me to hold a position all the way down to negative. I think we were at negative 13% here. I held all the way down to negative 13%. It makes zero sense for me to cut my position off at negative 13% when my position is still completely valid. This is something that a lot of you guys run into where you end up cutting positions off and you're like, oh man, I should have held this, blah, blah, blah. You say I should have held this, but you end up cutting yourself off with one of these 3 things. Now, how do I avoid one of these 3 things happening? Well, fear, it's quite simple. It's all about risk, okay? It's all about risk. If I can maintain a risk that is okay, well, then I won't be able to have this fear here. So for me, guys, I risk about 2% per position. And I keep myself at a 5% max daily risk. If you're not doing this, well, then you're probably going to suffer in the long run. Okay, so max daily risk. This is the amount that I am allowed to lose on my account max per day. Okay, so I can't lose more than 5% in the entire day, or else this is guaranteed going to be a pretty rough day for me, right? So with that being said, if I have that there, a 5% max daily risk, and I have a 2% max risk per position, and I most likely follow this exact risk routine every single time I take a trade, this fear will go away. All right? This fear will start to go away because why? Well, because I am trading systematically. Right? I know exactly what's happening. So let's say you set yourself at a 10% max daily risk. Well, if you set yourself at a max daily risk of 10%, well, then you will keep yourself in the green or in the red, for 10 days before you end up failing, okay? Before you end up blowing your entire account. If you keep yourself at a max daily risk of 5%, that means that you are able to hold yourself to 20 trades before you start to consider yourself failing or before you start to blow your account. So we need to consider ourselves, this is a very, very big thing when it comes to survival. So it's all about risk here, all right? Now, if you cut off your positions too early because of a red candle, okay? Let's say a red candle spikes you out of a position. Red candle spikes you out out of a position. Okay. If a red candle spikes you out of a position, the biggest thing that you need to do here is you need to remember that every candle has its own story, okay? And the stories that are told by the candles are over a long period of time, not just in the immediate moment that this is happening. So, for example, I was told by one of my students today, hey, watch out, SPY's flipping green, so this position may not go your way, right? And so we had this area here that I wanted to trim at, which was down here in this area around here. This is where I wanted to trim. And so I held my position guaranteed because I wanted my position to trim down here. Well, he saw that this candle opened up green and came all the way up here. And he was like, oh, this is looking like it's going to flip, right? So because this is looking like it's going to flip, I'm going to exit here. Well, then this candle ended up coming all the way down, hitting my target, allowing me to capture 10 to 12% more, and then it went and flipped up, right? So how was I able to know that this was most likely going to happen? Well, check this out, guys. We know one thing. The market moves level to level, okay? We know that the market moves level to level. So let's say that there is an order block here on the 15-minute, which there most likely is. Here it is. Order block right here on the 15-minute, okay? Boom. So if we have an order block right here on the 15-minute, what is the almost guaranteed thing to happen before we push up? We are going to come and test this order block, right? So we're going to test this order block most likely before we start to push up. So one thing that I know is that even if this candle opens up green, guys, we are more than likely going to come down to this level first to test this level and then continue to the upside. So I have zero reason to sell my position because why? Well, my target hasn't hit yet. So once your target hits, you are no longer in progress, right? You're no longer in progress. Once your target hits, you can exit your position. So what does that mean? Well, if your target has not hit yet, then your position's still in progress, right? You're still in that trade. There isn't a reason to cut it unless you see something that is genuinely going to be concerning. But remember, every candle tells its story. So a candle can open green and then come back down within the same candle. So who am I to say that, hey, this is gonna flip here? I don't know. You have to watch the candles themselves. So at this point, we were already up maybe 20%. So why would I cut this position? We're up 20%. We're nowhere near break even. We're coming up a little bit, yeah, but there's still a possibility for this thing to wick and come all the way back down. And I had already trimmed at this point. So for me, there was zero reason to sell this position off. So you have to realize that if your target has not hit yet, your trade is still in progress, okay? So very similar to what I said here, if your stop loss is a point of invalidation and you haven't hit your stop loss, then your position is still valid. Same thing goes for this trade, right? If your target has not hit yet, then your position is still in progress. You still have to wait. Position is still in progress. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't trim, right? But I'm talking about getting scared and exiting yourself out of a position for no reason. That's not very smart. Let's copy this here. There we go. So if your position has not hit your target yet, then your position is still considered a position in progress. That is going to be how we identify this. So if your stop loss has not hit, then your position is valid. If your target has not hit, then your position is still in progress. And in terms of fear, all you have to do is keep yourself in check risk-wise. If you can keep yourself in check risk-wise, you can guarantee that you are most likely not going to blow yourself up in the long run, keeping you less scared and less fearful of your positions going forward. So this is an absolutely amazing class for any of you who are trying to get better at holding your positions and not scaring yourself mentally, right? This is a very mental heavy class because you have to understand all of these things
are going to be determined by your brain. Okay? All these things are going to be determined by your brain. Almost 90% of the time, right? You are going to, for example, in this position here, we came all the way back down to this key level. How many of you would probably have exited at this point? Probably all of you. But this position isn't invalid yet. Your stop loss hasn't hit. So there's zero reason to have exited this unless your target has hit, which ours did, right? Our target hit up here. So since my target hit up here, I know that my position is no longer in progress. It can be considered complete. That's why I set my stop losses at break even after that, and I let my positions go, right? Because I know that once this target hits, yes, we have the opportunity to flip big time. But if this, let's say that this was not a target for me, there's zero reason for me to exit this position here. I have no reason to exit my position just because we're testing a key level. We haven't broken past that key level, so there's nothing telling me that, hey, I need to get out of this position, right? So think about your positions that way. Think about your positions as if your target isn't hit, your position is still in progress. If your position has not hit your stop loss yet, then it is still a valid position. And if you are focused on good risk management and you are focused on risking well and not blowing yourself up quickly, then you will, over the long haul, not feel as much fear as you do right now.